What an honor to be here only 26 months late, right? So Jeff and I were working. I was planning to come here for that breakfast a couple of years ago, and we were watching COVID, and I was sitting there in Houston, really in Galveston, and I'm starting to twitch, and airlines are canceling flights, and I was minutes away from calling, but Jeff called and said, I don't think we can get a group together for the breakfast. It's like, okay, we'll do this again, I promise. And so finally, I'm making good on that promise to get up here to do this. And this is actually coming home for me in a really big way. My Air Force career started at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base as a student at the Air Force Institute of Technology. That was 41, almost 42 years ago. It's hard to believe. And I started here. And we're speaking about the co-ed scouting. Actually started in the 70s, but it was for the older youth programs. Back then it was called Exploring. And my wife and I, when we were here, we were living in Fairborn, and our church sponsored a co-ed Explore post, and the rules changed, and they needed married people to be the advisors for it. And so, you know, right out of college, just less than a year out of college, my wife and I were already, and newlyweds ourselves, my wife and I were advisors for that Explore post, and we loved camping at Tar Hollow and down in Kentucky and stuff like that with the youth. And that was older. They were age 14 to 20. But it has been around. I'm so excited to see ladies like Lisa that are part of it now, that are in girl troops. I do think it's important to keep the girl troops, keep the guy troops, and they'll meet each other, trust me. You know, but anyway, it's a great change. I'm blessed with 4 children, and my daughter was in Girl Scouts, but that was not a good program match for her, and she got frustrated at the stuff her brothers were getting to do, and so she quit Girl Scouts and went on to other things. But I regret that it was not an option for her, and as a scout leader, as a scoutmaster for over 12 years, I had a lot of sisters that, you know, that really wanted to get dirty and get in on the action and all that too. This is also coming home because a dear friend is here with me today, Bob Shadowins. He and his late wife Tracy were our downstairs neighbors when we were all newlyweds together in the Mapleview Apartments over in Fairborn. And he's brought his grandson, Evan. Say hi, Evan. Yeah, there you go. Brought him here today. He's not a Cub Scout yet, so I need a little help. Okay, we can get him there. Let's see if this clicker's working. So okay. Oh, it's showing me down there too. Good, thank you. We're going to talk about the scouting trail to the ultimate high adventure. I'm going to talk a little bit about my story and stuff, and then we'll kind of pivot into really the value of scouting, which is why we're all here. Before I get started, how many of you were a scout or a parent of a scout or a scout leader? So you've got direct involvement with the program. Just raise your hands. Okay, lots and lots. So fantastic. Doggone. Anybody here because you're curious or you're willing to support scouting? Just, yeah, you don't know a lot about it, but you're here. Oh, you're wearing a uniform. No. Okay. So anyway, I was the oldest of 3 boys growing up in South Texas. We grew up and you know, actually living in different places. My brother Terry in the middle is actually a council president in Spokane, Washington. He served his Air Force duty, finished it up there, and then got out and stayed in that community. And then Brother Greg's a dentist in Corpus. So my bona fides, I was a Cub Scout way back in the day. You see me there. It was a different time. My mom was the den mother, a term we don't use anymore. They're den leaders, right? And my next brother is the one on the first row because he wasn't old enough to be a Cub Scout yet, and he was really ticked off at being left out, so my mom made him a mascot uniform. She made the blue shirt and a plain yellow neckerchief that he wore there. And I enjoyed, just like we saw in the thing there, I enjoyed being part of Pondwood Derby and stuff, the things you do in Cubs. And back then, just like so often today, you see my dad's got the bigger smile with the trophy. You know, then graduated up into Boy Scouts. We were a ragtag bunch. I grew up in McAllen, is located right on the Mexican border in South Texas. You hear that area in the news a whole lot today. My troop camped mostly along the Rio Grande River in the brushlands that were part of the kind of floodplains down there. I don't think there's any scouts camping in those brushlands right now. It's kind of busy. But enjoyed it and stuff. We were a ragtag bunch, a lot of Army, nobody had any money. Our tents were Army surplus, either Vietnam or maybe even Korea at that point. But it was kind of cool because you could get a whole patrol in one tent. So, we didn't know any better. We loved it. Big adventure for me. I loved scouting and growing in skills and stuff. But the biggest thing that our troop did, we didn't have the money to go the big backpacking in New Mexico and stuff. We did a 64-mile canoe trip on the Guadalupe River in Texas. Those are those battle cruiser summer camp canoes, the great big 90-pound aluminum ones. They don't work on white water very well, but it was an adventure anyway. Scouting really gave me the skills, the confidence to pursue my goals then, and prepared me for leadership in different ways. As I graduated from high school, found my way to college. The only way I could afford college was to join ROTC. I had zero desire to go in the military, but they offered to pay for my school, and I figured, you give me 4 years of education, I'll give you 4 years of service, then I'll be on my way. Well, that 4 years turned into active and reserves 30 until they finally kicked me out. Life has a way of working that like that. But I graduated, and I was a leader in my Corps of Cadets at Texas A&M. It's a residential Corps of Cadets, so it's not just 1 hour a week or something like that. You live in the dorms, and you live in that cadet life. When I graduated from A&M, I did go into the Air Force. I had first stop, of course, was up here to go to graduate school, and then on to other things. I heard, kind of a call of an opportunity to further my career. Actually, honestly, it was to further my dream of flying in space, which I had as an 11-year-old. We landed on the moon when I was 11, or I was 11 when we landed on the moon. And I remember, I was a geek. I loved space. I loved science and stuff. My dad was a farm boy who was crippled in an accident, and never went to college. But they believed in education, and he thought this stuff was cool. So we grew up watching that. And I remember when they landed on the moon, watching it on that grainy black and white TV, and then going out into the backyard late after the moonwalk that evening and shaking with excitement, looking up at the moon hanging over my house on the Mexican border, just trying to wrap my head around the fact that I had just watched two Americans' footprints up there. And that kind of said a bit, but it was not in July of 1969, because I remember the event, and it was cold and clear, and when you're in South Texas, it had to be January or February. And I was on a Boy Scout camp out on the banks of the Rio Grande River. As a campfire died down, I was laying on my back looking up at a million stars, and it suddenly became real, and I said, I want to do that. That's a pretty impossible thing to even dream about doing. Coming from where we were, and people laughed, and I didn't even believe it was possible. But, it started to be more possible. When I went to Air Force Test Pilot School, I was really intensely working toward that goal. I got into flight test and worked at Edwards Air Force Base, mostly in the F-16, and for 5 years, and then got into the classified test world in Nevada and stuff, and I loved it. I actually interviewed for Astronaut 3 times during those years when I was active duty. I got rejected 3 times, and I said, it's never going to work. And I was tired of moving my family. It's time to get my kids. By then we had 3. They didn't know their grandparents, and figured it's time to get home to Texas. So I left active duty. I stayed in the reserves, working here at the F-16 program office at Wright-Patterson until 2010. But I got a job at NASA in Houston as an engineer there, and I helped design the International Space Station. All of my time working aerospace stuff came in really handy, and I jumped into that world and was able to make a difference. So, and then finally, after 13 years of applying, and 13 years of applying, 7 applications, on my 5th interview, I was finally selected as an astronaut in 1998. So we heard, I was fortunate to fly 2 space shuttle missions, and I literally got to help build the space station that I'd helped design, bolting the pieces together in space. It was awesome. After that, the spacewalking is about the most outrageous thing that people can do. Is you're in this self-contained spaceship in a way. It's inflated to over 4 pounds of pressure. Spacewalking doesn't use legs. You can see my legs there hanging free, as you're using your upper body to move around and work on the space station, repairing things, literally bolting things together. And I was fortunate on during my long mission as the commander of the space station. I was up there half a year. I was up there for the very last space shuttle mission. And so that's me looking in the back window of the space shuttle to my buddies that were inside monitoring the spacewalk. After my space shuttle mission, though, I was asked to do the space station mission, and that's very different. Shuttle mission was about a year of intense training before you fly. You fly 2 weeks, you come home, you have a parade or party or whatever, and then you move on, take a break. Space station was hard. It was 2.5 years of intense training, and about 50% of that time I was out of the country, mostly in Russia. I didn't launch on a shuttle. I launched on a Russian Soyuz spacecraft from Kazakhstan. So I'm there with my crewmate, Sergei Volkov, in the middle, a Ukrainian-born Russian cosmonaut, and Satoshi Furukawa on the left, as training with them, getting ready for it. After 2.5 years of training, we finally launched in June of 2011 to the space station. And it was a very different adventure from flying on a shuttle, very foreign. And we did it all in the Russian language, so there was a lot of extra challenges there as this old dog had to learn how to speak Russian. Launched there from Yuri Gagarin's launch pad 50 years before us in April of 1961. That's the launch pad he launched from. The Russians don't throw anything away. Once we get to the station, then it's time to go to work in so many different ways up there, working on 200 different scientific experiments. Sometimes we were the guinea pigs for a lot of medical experiments, sometimes, materials science, et cetera, as well as maintaining the station, upgrading systems, keeping it running. I was very busy, but, you had a little bit of a break, different than a shuttle mission. It was so fast, so intense, you didn't have much time to look outside. On the station, you had time to look outside, and that's one of the things I love to do. This image is actually, this was a fairly new cluster of windows on the station, and it's a little disorienting because it's not really on the top of the station. It's actually on the bottom of the station, so you get to look up to look down at the Earth. So you have to look up. You get used to it very quickly. And what do you see through there? I took this picture, okay? That's the Aurora Australis, or the Southern Lights, with my Soyuz spacecraft in the foreground, a Russian cargo ship in the background, and what an astonishing thing to see, this rippling, pulsing river of green down below us, and with the red that stretched all the way up to our altitude. Throughout my adventures, scouting went with me. My buddies went with me. These are some of my best friends, not just in Scouts, but in life. We grew up together. We were in different scout troops. We were united in the Order of the Arrow at our service to our lodge and stuff. And this picture was actually taken at an Order of the Arrow event because I had short hair by that time. So I was in the Cadet Corps. I took the picture up with my buddies. It's in the window of that window cluster because I wanted them to come along with me. I actually flew Eagle badges and stuff for them as well. A lot of Eagle stuff went with me. I flew my own Eagle medal, as well as the medals for my 3 sons that I was eventually able to give to them, and a lot of other stuff. I did something that is going to be real hard to match, because I was a scoutmaster. I remained a scoutmaster while I was on the space station. I had an assistant that was doing all the heavy lifting down here, but I did a scoutmasters conference with all 35 of the boys in my troop. That's Joel Huff. He's at a scout camp in Central Texas on his getting his Scoutmasters Conference for second class. They got a picture of him, and there's a picture of me on the space station as I'm talking to Joel about that. So how cool is that, right? If your Scoutmaster's going to be on a 6-month trip, at least the guys get to enjoy it a little bit too. Though there was, and of course I'm a very proud Texas Aggie. I had no idea I would be a vice president of the university and running a marine and maritime campus, but I'm proud to carry that legacy. So back to what we're really here for. What's the value of scouting? I mean, there's a lot of different ways to put this, and in a lot of ways. And if you look at it from a youth's point of view, it's 100% fun, friends, and adventure. I have almost never met, a young person that comes into Scouts as a 6 or 7-year-old or even 11-year-old and say, "I'm here because I'm going to be an Eagle Scout." It doesn't happen. No, they don't. They're here for 3 reasons: fun, friends, and adventure. For you leaders, you give them that, they keep coming back. Okay, they don't join Scouts to go to class. They were in class all day. You give them fun, friend, adventures, things they can go to school bragging about. "Hey, we did this. We hiked 10 miles last weekend. What'd you do?" "I played video games," or whatever. This was true back in the day, and this is what bonded me and my buddies together. But it's also still true today. It's absolutely true today when you get these young people together. And you know what? It's even true when you keep the old guys bonded together across the many decades, as I still am with my buddies there. But make no mistake, the scouting program is a serious program, and it changes lives. The popular image is that of nerdy kids in geeky uniforms running around the woods with pocket knives, compasses, or burning sticks. Okay, guilty as charged, although we discourage the waving of the burning sticks. Simply put it, I believe that scouting is the #1 leadership and character development program for youth in our nation. Now, there's significant benefits, of course, from sports and band and martial arts and other programs, but scouting develops the whole person and prepares them to take their place in the adult world. The Boy Scouts of America defines our mission as to prepare young people to make ethical and moral choices over their lifetimes by instilling in them the values of the Scout Oath and Scout Law. We repeated that Scout Oath and Scout Law at the beginning here. I want to dwell on those words for just a minute. That Scout Oath and Scout Law are internalized within our young people and even us old people through years and decades of recitation and practice. The Scout Oath, the words are, "On my honor," emphasize, "I will do my best. I ain't perfect. I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country." Foundational. And to obey the Scout Law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. Do the right things. The Scout Law defines those 12 characteristics of a scout. This is not just at scout meetings. No, but it's also at home. It's in school. It's in the neighborhood. It's in life. A scout is, they personify, they aspire to. A scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, it's courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. This expression of shared values is both profound and transformational. These are the values which really form the bedrock of our society and our country. So why is the scouting important? Why do we need scouting today? All you have to do is watch the news, folks. Simply put, our country is crying out for leaders of integrity, leaders who live their values and do the right thing even when it hurts, leaders who understand the meaning of words like honor, duty, and trustworthy. An 11-year-old scout knows it. Why can't the adults? Our country's crying out for that. I know for a fact that scouting changes lives. In my many years, most of my adult life as a leader in scouting and my 12 years as a scoutmaster, about 20% of the scouts that I served had no father in their lives. Over the years, I've made numerous visits to their homes to talk about school, girls, bullies. I even taught one how to ride a bicycle because he didn't have a dad there to run along to steady and encourage him. We're there with him for the celebrations of life and to help each other through the tragedies and setbacks. You know, as scoutmasters at a troop level, we get them in as 5th graders and we send them off to college. Today, some of my scouts are doing amazing things. One is an Air Force AC-130 gunship pilot. He called me from Iraq about 7 years ago at Christmas. He had had over 50 combat missions under his belt and was scared about the enemy fire he faced every time he crossed the border. But he did his job, made an impact on the threat, and brought his crew home safely. One is an Army Black Hawk pilot supporting his Eagle Scout brother, who's a member of the infantry. I have numerous engineers. One just finished his PhD in nuclear engineering. Another recently finished his degree in electrical engineering and was selected for officer training in the Space Force. Wonder where he got that idea. At his Eagle Scout ceremony 7 years ago, he broke down in tears at the podium. He called me the father he didn't have. He'd only met his father twice in his life. One of my scouts is in my former job in the Air Force conducting classified flight tests on the next generation of aircraft and weapons. 2 are in medical school, 3 are already practicing doctors. One finished up his Army Reserve requirements as an enlisted man and then graduated from nursing school. One is in law school, 2 are practicing lawyers. One completed 3 combat tours in Afghanistan, where he says he learned everything he needed to know about interrogation from me, and he's now back in college. One is finishing up his training to be a teacher and will join 5 of his buddies in that honorable career. One is a very successful welder using skills he first learned at summer camp many years ago. He found his passion, and we're proud to celebrate his wedding with him and his new bride last weekend. 4 of my guys have been students on my campus in Galveston at Texas A&M. Just when they thought they were leaving their high school days behind, they're shocked to learn they can't get away from me. One of my Eagle Scout sons spent 27 months changing lives as a Peace Corps volunteer in Benin, Africa, came home from graduate school, and then last summer went back to Chad, Africa, working for an NGO to eliminate the devastating parasite that's reappeared in the human population. Looks like his next step will be law school. Look forward to seeing where John goes. My oldest son, a graduate of the Air Force Academy, is living his dream as a fighter pilot in the F-15E Strike Eagle. He's completed multiple hairy combat tours in the Middle East and is now paying his dues in Washington, D.C. Now, these guys might have all gone through their phase of running through the woods with those burning sticks, but they've grown up, and they've moved on to serve our nation in very serious ways. I believe in this program. That's why I find time still in my busy professional life to support it. Scouting changes lives. I say without jest, it probably saved mine. I grew up in a tough neighborhood in South Texas. A few years ago, the house immediately next door to where I grew up was the scene of a hostage situation and a major drug bust. It was really no surprise. When we were kids, my youngest brother stumbled into a drug deal in the alley directly behind our home and found himself staring down the barrel of an assault rifle. I was shot at twice and knifed once before I turned 13. I knew where to find trouble, and trouble knew where to find me. Fortunately for me, scouting gave me a positive outlet for adventure and challenges. Yeah, I've got a theory that I believe young people need a certain amount of adrenaline in their lives. Now, they can get that adrenaline rush by causing trouble and running from the police. Or they can get it rappelling from a tower or shooting rapids in a canoe using skills they learned at one of our awesome high adventure camps or Camp Cricket Holler. I confess to having done some of both of those adrenaline rushes. Scouting offered me positive, healthy challenges which took every ounce of my strength, energy, and courage to overcome. Scouting taught me the fundamentals of leadership, which I built upon in my 30-year Air Force career, which I used daily as the commander of the International Space Station during my 6-month really high-adventure trip. I do my best to uphold those same character values now as I lead a campus of Texas A&M University. Scouting gave me friends for life. Scouting taught me I can strive for excellence, as exemplified by the quest to attain the rank of Eagle. And I later realized this was just the one of many monumental challenges I could face and handle on life's trail. Scouting solidified my values and my love for our country. Scouting taught me to serve others, and I learned I could influence my community for the better. Most importantly, Scouting gave me the chance to learn and grow under the influence of dedicated adult leaders. In spite of my strong belief in the Scouting program today, my future and I believe my fate hung in the balance. Shortly after joining a Boy Scout troop, I encountered some problems, bullies and whatnot, and I dropped out. I was a belligerent kid, and my parents didn't know much about the program. They did not have the energy to turn me around. But one of my scout leaders, my adult leaders, Mr. Mickey Allen, who had been my Webelos leader, wouldn't let me go. He would look for me in the neighborhood. The neighborhood swimming pool was at the end of his street. He would come down there and check and see if I was there, and then he would come in, and I'd say, "Oh no, here comes Mr. Allen." And he would talk to me, "What's wrong?" He would push me to go back and give it a try. I didn't learn until decades later that he was also, sometimes he'd keep walking by the pool, and I'd say, "Thank goodness he's not coming in here to talk to me, bug me." He was walking to my house to talk to my parents because he knew I wasn't home, and trying to get them to be in on it. Finally, after months of badgering, I finally agreed to go back and give my troop another try. Thanks to Mr. Allen's intercessions, the atmosphere in my troop had changed. The bullies were gone, and I started having the kind of fun and adventures a boy really yearns to have. And I thrived. Because of the love and persistence of that one leader, I stayed in Scouting, and a series of events followed. My two younger brothers also joined Scouts. We all earned the rank of Eagle. We went on to lead Scout troops in our communities and raise Eagle Scout sons, positively influencing the lives of countless other young men and now young women at critical times in their lives. I can never repay Mickey Allen, Tom Huffstutler, or Bob Helbing, or any of the other close friends and dedicated men and women who kept me on the right path in life. All I can do now as a Scout volunteer is to do the best that I'm able with the time, talents, and energy that I have to pay it forward so the next generation of young people can benefit from the promise of Scouting. So that's my story of how a young kid from South Texas could go from the precipice of trouble, from dodging bullets to serving as the commander of the International Space Station, and eventually to serve as a vice president of Texas A&M University. My story, though, is not unique and not merely ancient history. There are young people right here in the area served by the Miami Valley Council who face the same challenges and are finding renewed hope and opportunity to take the higher path and to become leaders in our community and our great nation. Your commitment and support to this program is making a profound difference for the better. We need Scouting, especially today as our youth are recovering from the oppressive shutdown, fears, and isolation of COVID, which have caused them to retreat into their rooms and electronic worlds detached from reality. We need Scouting to help our youth recalibrate their internal and moral compasses to understand truth, honor, duty, and love for our country. We need Scouting. Thank you to the dedicated volunteers who are willing to love, to lead, to serve, and support the youth in our programs. We need Scouting. And thank you to those who give generously to provide the same opportunities for those who can't afford the price of uniforms and summer camps, as well as the financial support to run our camps and other essential programs. The time and money you invest in Scouting is a direct investment in our future. By this, I truly mean the future of our community, our state, and our nation, which built upon these timeless yet increasingly rare values exemplified by Scouting. The future of your business depends on the value of people like Scouts that you can trust. They are the people you want to hire. We need Scouting because it changes lives. More than ever, we need a strong Scouting program to serve our community. From the bottom of my heart, thank you very much.